to the Barely News Crew. I'm your host here as always, Alexis, and today to bring you another movie review. This is the movie appropriately titled Joy. Joy is written and directed by David O. Russell, which is the director and writer of such films like American Hustle, The Fighter, and Silver Linings Playbook, and it also stars the Meryl Streep of this generation, Miss Jennifer Lawrence, as well as Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. Joy is based loosely off the real-life story of Joy Mangano, who was famous in the 1990s for starting up the Home Shopping Network and was the inventor of the Miracle Mop. So this movie was basically about mops, or a mop. So, yeah. And the Home Shopping Network, HSN, and QVC. Milestones of our society and generation, for sure. I just gotta say this movie is far from perfect, and for a lot of people, far from good. There were problems to be had in terms of pacing, interesting cuts that made people a bit turned off by what was happening, because this is kind of sort of not really a biopic, not entirely faithful. Most biopics aren't really entirely faithful to their actual films. But this one felt more of a mix of true story and just adding in some really outlandish, I guess what you would call movie elements to it that just made it a bit kooky in some parts. And I get why people didn't like that. But for me, I loved it, and I loved this movie, and I personally loved what David O. Russell did with it. Even though I do acknowledge there were parts of it that were somewhat messy, I think what's really great about the film is, again, a strong female character portrayed by Jennifer Lawrence. Based off the true story in the 1990s, Joy Mangano was an aspiring entrepreneur who had been pretty much burdened all her life with having to take care of her family, her children, her ex-husband that lives with her after 3 years after being divorced, her mom, and her father that always leeches off of her, and it's just very, very depressing until one day she decides, enough of this, I'm gonna make something out of myself because I know I can. And on that note, it is very inspiring. She just all of a sudden flips the switch and she decides that she's going to be an entrepreneur. This film is just a really interesting experience to see how that actually happens. It's a bit informal, a bit educational in some parts, but I found it very entertaining. Jennifer's portrayal of Joy is absolutely delightful, and I really do think it's that role of female empowerment that's not so much in your face, but you get it and you like it. And I really do feel that this performance by Jennifer Lawrence is up there with the Charlize Therons of the world and the Daisy Ridleys of the world, and I really, for me, it was one of my favorite performances of 2015. But there are negatives to be had in this film for sure. I was very underwhelmed by the lack of Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro, even though they were heavily promoted and advertised to be featured in this film. But really, I'm not sure it's too much of a spoiler to say that they're not really the focus here, of course, and they're not really part of it. This film does have an ensemble, but not the kind of ensemble I would have preferred. Throughout the movie, you really start to hate the family as it progresses. I mean, you're focused on Joy, but every time you see anybody else on screen and all of the drama they bring to it and the classic family BS, you're just kind of like, okay, you can leave the screen now. But overall, this was entertaining. It was enjoyable. And even though I recognize the problems, and I definitely won't say it's a great film by any means, I loved it. I loved Jennifer Lawrence, I loved her character, and I loved the story. And I definitely recommend it for all of you who love Jennifer Lawrence, as well as David O. Russell's previous work. It's not his best, but I think it's still overall a good movie and definitely worth a watch. So go out and see Joy. Thank you so much for watching another movie review here on the BNC. Please make sure to subscribe for more and leave a comment below now and then. And until next time, I am your host, here as always, Alexis. And remember, you're always on to the place for all things movie news and reviews. Bye-bye.